Guys, this game is fantastic. Please don't miss out on this one if you have the means to play it. Hi-Fi Rush. It has been so long since I've seen a game of this style actually get released. And with any type of semblance, usually it's like the indie titles that kind of have games of this style, but to see this come from a AAA development studio, and I guess that you would classify this as more of a AA game experience, but man, this game really surprised me, and the polish of this game is phenomenal, and it's got all the necessary bits to really just create this very compelling experience. I had a great time playing Hi-Fi Rush from start to finish, and honestly the game grew on me the more that I played it. I first got in there, you're kind of just wowed by the graphical art direction. It's got this really unique style, and I think I'll get into the graphics first, because it's the most striking thing about this game is just the way that it looks. They finally found a way to basically take the stencil 2D drawings and make it look like that in a 3D environment. Because we've all seen these kind of anime style games, they try to do the whole anime art direction stuff, but then you play the game and there's actual depth, and the things, they just don't look as clean as you kind of would expect. Hi-Fi Rush is honestly the first game that I played where it looks effectively almost 2D in motion. I'm not sure how they actually did it, because the amount of detail on display, the environments are so lovingly crafted, and they have all these different, interactable items, and, everything's kind of packed in and feels like it's really dense. But the actual detail itself, it's all under the microscope of this more 2D animated style. It looks like a cartoon in motion. And I just don't know how they actually got around to making the visuals really look like this. It's very impressive, and the more that you play the game, they have these really cool transitions at times where it takes you from the actual gameplay into the animated cutscenes. And it's astounding, how they're able to actually pull this off so quickly. The character animations, while the game runs at 60 frames per second, all the cutscenes are done in a much lower frame rate. I think around, like 12 or 14 frames per second, whatever the cartoon, style of animation is for this type of style of game. They got that down in all of the cutscenes, and so all the characters are just very expressive. They're very interesting and fun to watch. Man, I love the way that this game looks. Now, it doesn't have HDR, that was the one thing I was kind of hoping for, but quite honestly, I think that this was more of an artistic choice, because, when you have a game that deals with this much color, this much art sort of on screen at one time, you want to make sure it's like the same experience for everyone. And I think HDR would have manipulated the colors a little bit more, and people would have had a different experience, especially because a lot of people just don't calibrate their TVs. So you're better off just mastering everything to an SDR source, and trusting that people are going to have a decent calibration set up for their television, or at least somewhat of a close look at that. But man, I think the visual presentation, while that's the most striking thing about this game, it's not the only great news. Not only does this game look fantastic in motion, the music and the gameplay, that's very much a part of this game, right? It's that whole sort of rhythm-based combat gameplay that this game really takes a chance with. And the gameplay is fantastic. It kind of plays like your typical kind of basic hack and slash, but you're doing it to like the beat of the music. And while I thought that this might be a little bit hard to get into, because I can't recall exactly when the last time I played a game of this style was, but this game is very inviting to new players. In fact, I don't think if you played a game of this style before that you're going to have much of an issue going into this game. I actually played this game on hard difficulty from start to finish, and I was surprised at just how difficult this game can get. It's not just about listening to the beat of the music, but the game actually changes up the rhythm as you're sort of playing it at one point. And the boss fights are so exciting, but also so challenging, especially when you ramp up the difficulty. I died a couple dozen times facing off some of the latter boss fights, but all of them have a rhythm that you kind of have to, get down and memorize. And you're basically attacking and parrying to the rhythm of the beats. And yes, this may seem difficult to actually grasp. You don't know how this is going to translate into what your typical playstyle is, but the game allows you to sort of ease into the controls and customize things to your liking. And I found that on the hard difficulty, while yes, the game was difficult, I didn't find it impossible, and I had a great time playing through this game from start to finish the entire way through on that difficulty. And when you nail the parrying and the fights and the hits and all that stuff, you really just can't help but crack a smile. They got a great selection of music here. Some of it is, music that they've actually developed for the game itself. It's its own score. And then they have some music where they grab from some popular bands, popular rock bands and whatnot. So you're going to recognize some of the tracks as they come up. But even so, the music that they made for the game is fantastic in my opinion. Everything has a different tone to it. It's not like you're listening to the same song or the same style of song over and over and over again. And I really found that the combat and the music just rhymed together so well to create this really unique, compelling, and exciting experience as you're playing through the entire game. This is a fun ride, and from a gameplay perspective, even when you ramp up the difficulty, you're going to get some cool challenge and feedback. And yeah, you're going to have to persevere through some of those boss fights, but when you do, it's like, man, I nailed that. It creates that excitement and that cool tension when you're actually fighting these fights. And again, it adds a bit of strategic value to the actual gameplay, because you have to pay attention to the actual music and stuff that's going on, and the attacks that the enemies do are also within a certain rhythm to the actual music that's playing around. The environment itself moves, it's animating to the actual rhythm of the music that's playing around you. It's astounding. There are all these different things in place there to actually help you kind of along the way, and this is one where I felt that it was exciting, it was rewarding, and yes, it was difficult, but it never got frustrating. It was sort of always on you to actually see what the game was like, and kind of pay attention to the environment around you to really kind of nail down exactly where your attack should be, what time you should be parrying, and when a safe spot was to actually do your super moves and all that stuff. So this was fantastic. The gameplay was a surprising joy, and again, it gives you more mechanics. It doesn't just lay everything out and expect you just to learn everything on the fly. It slowly rolls out updates over the course of the entire game, so as you're playing it, it's like, oh, okay, I'm learning a new mechanic, I'm spending time actually familiarizing myself with a new mechanic. More often than not, they'll introduce a new enemy type that actually has to do directly with that new mechanic that you just learned. So the game has a great set of tutorials in place to actually teach you how to use these mechanics. And for a game of this style, which could have easily, been one of those games that was just a little bit too difficult for some people to master, this is a game that I feel is very inviting for new people, even if you've never played a game of this style. For me, I can't even tell you if I ever played a game of this style or how long it's been since I've last played a game of this style, but I was able to get in there. I felt like I was kicking some ass. I was listening to some great tunes along the way, and the combat was very enjoyable, and it allowed me to spend time with it to really understand its mechanics. This is honestly what great pacing and what great gameplay design can really do to a game of this style, even to people who aren't necessarily fans of this genre. I need to talk about this game's story because this was a surprising joy. I honestly did not expect the story to be just as heartfelt and even emotional as the story really turned out to be. This is really cool storytelling. Now, it starts off in a rather simplistic fashion. It sets up the villains, it sets up your main characters, and, the writing itself, it has some, lands and also some falls. It doesn't exactly always hit. But, you're kind of going into the game, you're not taking it too seriously, and you're just kind of like, okay, I want to go in here and have some fun kicking some ass. But this storyline honestly really grew on me over time. This set of characters, they really slowly developed them over the course of the entire game, and each one has significant importance to the storyline. Even the side characters you'll come across as you're going through these levels, different robots and different people that you can kind of interact with and talk with, and all of them have unique personalities. They kind of have their own story, and they're doing their own thing, and you're kind of following along with them as you're going through the rest of the game. So it's just really cool. There's a lot of cool references in here that I think people are going to really appreciate and have fun figuring out. And I was really surprised. By the end of this game, I felt very, very attached to the characters. The villains themselves are really great because they're all different eccentric personalities. You know, it's not like you're fighting the same type of evil person over and over again. Each one is involved in this company doing its own thing, and so you're fighting someone who deals with more of the marketing stuff, and she likes to throw parties, and she likes to create this big, extravagant, you know, massive situation, and it's like this grand boss fight, and you're fighting some guy who deals with the finances stuff, and he's more of a loner type. You know, someone who deals with the production side of things, and she's kind of heavy, you know, hard hitting, and just this really cool collection of great characters and people that really grow on you over time. Each have their own eccentric personality, and I enjoyed fighting each and every single one of them. They all have a different, you know, theme that kind of goes along with their boss fight, and so it kind of is exciting to learn their theme as you're playing through their boss fights and failing, and then trying to learn their patterns over and over again. And they're just really, really, really awesome. By the end of this game, I felt very emotionally attached to these characters. You know, it's not something where the game has like a sad ending or sad moments, but it's very heartfelt. You know, it's very genuine. And I can't remember the last time I played a game where instead of feeling like emotionally connected to people, I just felt like this was a very heartwarming, you know, very genuine storyline about just, you know, people who are just trying to kind of grow into their own roles and just, you know, have fun along the way. These are a lot of young people that you're kind of dealing with in this game, but, you know, the game has this really genuine kind of feel and sense to it, and the emotion is there. You're going to feel connected to these people, and I just was like, I clapped at the end of the game. I was like, this is awesome. I felt like I got a great journey. It felt like you went through an entire season of just a really classic cartoon that has a really important moral and just heartwarming ending to its narrative. This is a great storyline that's going to keep you invested throughout the entire experience, and it was a surprising joy to find this level, this quality of storytelling in a game of this style, and one that I wasn't really expecting at all, you know? Tango Gameworks, the developers of this game who did the Evil Within games, I would highly recommend the Evil Within 2 specifically, because that's a very emotional storyline, and it really proved to me of just the great storytelling that these developers really have. Ghostwire Tokyo was also a great game, not quite as emotional as the Evil Within 2, but I feel that this is a closer step into that direction. While not quite as, you know, sad and depressing as the Evil Within 2 storyline, it does still contain those genuine emotional levels where you really feel for the characters. You feel that they're connected and involved and have reason to feel the way that they are regarding the situations that they're going through within the present world in the game. So this is a great experience, guys. Hi-Fi Rush is fantastic. It's really a surprising joy that released, you know, this year, and one that not any of us were really expecting. It's been so rare since we've had a game like this, and, you know, say what you will about the constant state of like how games are released and not really exciting anymore. I think the main issue is that we just know about everything before it's even announced. Almost every single thing gets leaked today, and it's just been so nice and special to have an experience come out of nowhere. There's been no mention, there's been no leaks whatsoever of this experience, and it came out of nowhere, and it's a genuine joy to play through. It's got a great, unique art direction, it's got kick-ass music, and it's got a really heartwarming storyline to go along with it. This is a great game, and for $30, I went through a 12-hour single-player campaign playthrough of this game on hard difficulty. I had a great time playing this game. I really did. I had a lot more fun playing this than Forspoken, which released on the same day. And man, it's just amazing because the two separate games, two completely different games that had nothing to do with each other. One's like a massive, expensive AAA big budget game, and then the other here is this AA smaller project from a AAA studio. You know, it's just, I really hope that this can be the start of, hopefully, you know, at least from the Microsoft side with these new acquisitions, letting developers do their own special little projects like this, because it really just shows you when you have a talented group of people who are motivated, and you give them the creative ability to basically do what they like to do, to really create an experience that's as special as this. I'm just so glad that it exists, and I really am hoping for eventually down the line a physical game release as well. I would love that for this game. This is one that needs to be immortalized in my hands physically. So anyway, Hi-Fi Rush is fantastic, guys. I honestly can't praise the game enough. If you haven't played the game for whatever reason, maybe you don't have an Xbox or a PC, or you're just kind of, I don't know if it's really a game that I'm going to enjoy. Listen, not everyone has Game Pass, I understand that, but if you just want a really cool storyline that's heartwarming with characters that you're really going to care about, this game will give you that. The combat of the game is really fun later on. You can actually tune it to your own playstyle. There's different moves and abilities and stuff that you can actually enable with your characters, and the combat just gets surprisingly fun, and also allows you to make it as simple or complex as you prefer, so it lets you play it at its own pace. And an art direction here where, again, they finally nailed down getting the look of 2D in like a 3D space. And it's weird because I don't know how they did it. I don't know what it is about the image when I'm looking at it that makes it just so far above anything else of games with this style, but they managed to do it. Expressive characters and cutscenes and seamless transitions between these more animated cutscenes and this gameplay, and you buy it. It's like, wow, it's just visual eye candy. It's fantastic. So please, for the love of God, don't sleep on this. You probably heard a lot of people praise it already, but even if you're still on the fence about this game, it's my personal recommendation that everyone should go out and at least try this. It's well worth your time. It won't take you that long to get through, and again, you can tailor the experience to whatever your particular playstyle is, whatever you're really looking for in the game. It's a great ride. So that's it for my review of Hi-Fi Rush. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you played the game, let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you all in the next one. Thank you.